All right, Sonny and
Dylan.
attendees. Look at this. We got some folks joining us. This is great. Okay. Welcome to this webinar, Sonny. We've never done this before. Strategies for
No, this is my
protecting your business during a downturn. If there was ever a reason to do this, this is the one, right?
yeah,
Uh,
that's
to
right.
our to all of the attendees that are here, feel free to drop your comments in the questions box if you can see that. If you've got a chat box, feel free. And as we go along here, Sonny and I will interrupt what we're doing to try and get in front of you. But what we're hoping to do is by the time this webinar is over, that you've got some ideas that will help you go back to your business and figure out what to do next. And I'm going to spend some time talking about the sort of the financial end. Sonny's going to spend some time talking a little bit about the sales and marketing end, and then we'll open it up for questions. And if the attendees are too nervous to ask questions, then Sonny and I are pretty good conversationalists, and we'll figure out, we'll just ask each other questions. Sonny, how's that sound?
That's right. Hey,
So
that sounds all right.
by way of introduction, why don't you go first, and then I'll pick up where you leave off.
All right. So, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I own a little business called Lads Business Solutions, and what we do is we help businesses grow their business. We're not a marketing agency, so we're not here to sell SEO or sell social media or anything like that. We're strictly there to help entrepreneurs put plans in place to help grow their business. I'm also an entrepreneur that failed. I was once the owner of Planet Builders. It was a brand that everybody knew. It was a business that, I had success and I had horrific failures. And where I am today, where I'm devoting my new career on strictly helping out entrepreneurs from the mistakes that I've made. Dylan, yourself?
Well, and that's actually how you and I know each other, through Planet Builders,
That's
because I
right.
got involved
Yeah.
with you and your partner, and we had attempted to make the most of what was a very difficult situation. Ultimately, we're not able to be successful at that. However, that was some time ago, and we both moved on. And for myself, I've spent the last couple of decades, I'm a finance guy, so funding mortgages and loans. I've spent 2 decades raising money from investors, funding mortgages and loans through banks. I'm the founder of a company called Bridge Capital, and so that's all we do all day long. We've got a bunch of tools online for entrepreneurs to take advantage of. We recently launched what we call the Bridge Cap account, which has a bunch of tools in there, specific tools that entrepreneurs can use on their own to get a sense of what they should be doing with their business. And I spend my days, in the last maybe 7 years, I've spent my days just working directly with entrepreneurs that are in distress. So they back themselves into a corner. They're not really sure what to do next. And typically I come in, replace the controller, and then clean up the books, get the what I call back of house in order, start working through the operations end of the business, ultimately leaving the business and working my way out after the sales and marketing have been addressed. So I sort of kind of like a jack of all trades that goes in, fixes stuff, and then backs myself out. Sometimes I've got money in the company, sometimes I don't, but that's all I do. I work in really difficult situations, and given what's going on in the economy right now, this is my wheelhouse.
this yeah, and
Yeah.
all the businesses that we're working right now, they're all their growth strategies are changing. Everything is
Yeah, and
changing. Technology is being a big key play in the businesses today and right now. So
yeah, and as you and I have talked, Sonny, over the past week, that being an entrepreneur is hard anyway, and running a small and medium-sized business is full of challenges. And what I'm sort of telling entrepreneurs right now is, whatever was not working in your business before, if there were pieces that you kind of didn't have in place, maybe you didn't have a customer database, which I know, Sonny, you're going to spend a lot of time talking about.
yeah,
If you didn't have your accounting in order, if you didn't have your, kind of your production or your operations in order, all that's happening right now is you're able to see at orders of magnitude where your business was. It was already a little broken, and today it's probably really broken, and now you're scrambling to figure out how to fix it. So maybe today we can shed some light on some strategies and some tactics that you can use to
yeah, absolutely.
make some important decisions.
Yeah, I've got, I think, 5 points that I'd like to try to get my point across here today, and just what business can do today to start to curve what they're feeling through in their business right now anyways. So
Yeah, and I think as context, just before we jumped on this webinar, Sonny, we were talking about how, because you and I talk almost every day, the things we were talking about on Monday, they're no longer true today on Thursday. And unlike the financial crisis, which I owned a business through and made a bunch of poor decisions and mistakes and had to work out of them, what's really different right now, I can feel it, is everything's happening really, really, really fast. During the financial crisis, it sort of felt like 1 week could turn into 2 weeks, and 1 month turned into 2 months, and it was really bad, but you didn't feel like it was out of control. This time around, it feels, because of, I don't know if it's just how we're all connected socially, but everything's happening so fast. The decisions you make as a Monday, the decisions I was making on Monday that we thought maybe we had a week or two to kind of figure out, today we ended up pulling the trigger on a bunch, like I was telling you, with layoffs and putting people on EI, doing work sharing programs and that sort of thing. Like I thought maybe a week or two from now we'd be talking about that, and all of a sudden it's like, nope, we're doing it today. You're seeing the same thing,
why
obviously.
today? How did you make that decision today, Dylan?
Well, I'm because of my experience and what I spend my days doing, I'm just a healthy paranoid individual, and I know that right now preserving whatever you have is way more important than thinking something's going to change tomorrow, because the only thing that's going to change tomorrow is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And I'm of the opinion that this isn't, we're not in a moment that goes away in a few weeks. I think this is a 12, 18, 24 month tough time. I think we haven't quite hit the peak of the virus yet. And so the government is just looking to prop up people's finances so that they can buy groceries and pay their rent and so forth. And that's great. But once we hit peak and we start coming down the other side, now the real work is going to begin. And so I think we're in for a real tough slug. And so what caused the decision was we started calling every customer all the time in the two businesses I'm actively involved with right now. Actively meaning I'm running them. And we've been talking to customers for 2 weeks every day on active jobs, active projects, and getting a sense of where they're at, and every day talking with my general managers to say, okay, so what's changed? And what's happening is we're just seeing very, very quickly that everything is fluid right now. And so even our customers are saying, yeah, we know we were going to do this, whatever, with you. We were going to transact with you. We've now decided we're not sure. And so you hear that enough. 2 weeks later, I'm going, you know what? We don't need another 2 weeks to wait to see what happens, because I think the writing's on the wall. So we've made those decisions in both businesses. Yesterday, what's today? Today's Thursday. So Tuesday, put everyone on EI in our one business, and this morning put everyone else in the other business on EI. And whatever work is available, we're sharing amongst everyone to be able to take advantage of that work sharing program. But trying to preserve cash, trying to make sure that we've got a running shot at surviving whatever we're in front of right now. And again, I think that's part of what I'll spend the next couple of minutes talking about anyway. But that's why we didn't need to wait. It was, to me, plain as day, because we've been talking to our customers for 2 weeks, and you just read the signals and you can get a pretty good sense of it.
And do you find that even with your current client base that you have now, there's certain clients that you want to continue working with because they might be healthier than a company that you might not get paid for a service that you're actively working on?
Yeah, in one of the construction businesses that I'm involved with, that was basically the decision. It was like, here's a project, and we said, yeah, they're not going to be able to pay us. I mean, they're good folks, they're a good company, but we know who's paying them and we know who's paying them. And so as we look at the pecking order, we just made the decision we're not going to spend our time on it, because we can do the job, we can do the work, we can complete what was asked of us. But when it comes time to getting paid, it's going to be our balance sheet that is carrying our customer, because we believe that the probability is very high that our customer won't be able to pay us, not because they don't want to, they just simply won't be able to.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know you like working with businesses, Dylan, that are kind of going through hardship. You find a little niche there, so you're not scared of this kind of conversation. So
No,
that's
not
why
at all.
this would be you got that smiling face when I asked this question.
Yeah,
so
no, it's good.
and
well, mostly not because I'm a sucker for punishment, but running a business, this is just what you have to deal with. There's no such thing as a business that gets to run flawlessly, perfectly, without, if a business wants to be meaningfully profitable, they're going to hit some speed bumps along the way. This one just happens to be more than a speed bump. You know, we're all trying to cross, I think we're all trying to cross a big chasm right now. And so same strategies apply, same logic applies. The only thing that's different is the amount of time that's needed to do the things that we have. So on the back of that, maybe I'll just jump in, because I think that sort of lends itself to what I was going to spend a few minutes talking about. And again, to the folks that are watching this right now, feel free to pop your questions in or drop your comments in. Be happy to answer them and respond to them. So I kind of laid this sort of three ideas out. And the first is, and it backs on what you said, Sonny, but was to understand where you are right now, to understand where you think your business is going to end up, and then to understand what to focus on as a result of those first two questions. And so to understand where you are right now, when people are in full freak out mode, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the economy is falling apart. It could just be before what we're going through right now, it could have just been that, much like with, say, Planet Builders, right? You just found yourself in a moment where you were panicking. And so it's always helpful to understand what's the actual problem that you're trying to solve right now. Is it that you don't have any sales? Is it that you're not getting paid from customers? Is it that you don't have any cash to pay salaries? Is it that you don't have any cash to pay expenses? You've got to be specific in the problem that you're trying to solve, because the solution is going to be based on, your ability to execute on a solution is only as good as your ability to determine what the problem is. So for example, if you say to yourself, we don't have any sales, okay, well, then that changes the work that you need to do, because if you don't have any sales, then, this leads into what you're going to be talking about, Sonny, but do you have a customer database? Are you doing all those things to generate sales? If you're not getting paid from customers, then that's a different problem. Okay, do I need to jump on, most businesses don't treat accounts receivable very seriously until they have to, right? You just sort of figure, I don't want to bother my customers. I don't want to ask them for payment. They know they owe me, yada, yada. But if all of a sudden you find, oh crap, things aren't working out, I need to get paid from my customers, then that's a different set of actions that you're going to take, because you're going to print off your aged receivables. Depending on how desperate you are for cash, you're going to offer discounts for early payment. You're going to take credit cards over the phone. You're going to go pop in your car, drive, pick a check up if you have to. So that's a different, depending on that problem, you're going to have a different set of actions. If you have no cash, just straight up, you have no cash to pay expenses, then you're going to be looking to get on the phone with the folks that you owe money to, be it the government, be it vendors, be it suppliers. And now you're going to start having, you're going to spend a couple of days just talking to them and saying, okay, here's where our business is at. Here's what we're trying to do. And so again, that's a different strategy, right? And so to the extent that you can articulate the problem that you're trying to solve, you'll be able to have some clear thinking in terms of what should my strategies or my tactics be to solve that problem. And that seems like a lot of what I'm going to share is going to seem obvious, except it's not obvious when you're under the water line and you're gasping for air, right? Like, oh yeah, of course, Dylan, I'm trying to solve every problem right now. Well, that isn't true, because you can't solve every problem right now, right? You can only solve the problems that are in front of you based on how well you can articulate them. And so I smile, because a lot of times an entrepreneur will feel overwhelmed because they haven't actually said out loud what they're worried about in their head. At 2 a.m, they're waking up and they've just got a cascading stream of thoughts. What if? Oh crap, how about this? What's going to happen with that? But when you're forced to say it out loud to somebody, all of a sudden you go, okay, wait a minute. Now okay, that doesn't sound out loud. It doesn't sound as bad as it did in my own head. Yeah, life sucks, I get it. But all these things I was worried about, I should probably still be worried about them, but they don't need to have that kind of influence over my thinking that they're having now. This is where I'm at, and this is the problem I'm trying to solve. So then if you can do that, if you can somehow muster the energy to do that, or jump on a call with me or with you, Sonny, or what have you, and you can now start to break down the specific problem that you're trying to solve and even prioritize them, that gives you the ability, okay, here's what I need to do. But you can only do that if you've done the next thing as well, which is to say, where do you think your business is going to end up right now? And I think that's probably the tricky part in what's going on with this coronavirus, because in my history, it's quite easy to say, if a business is broken, right? We take your business, Sonny, as an example, and you say, okay, the business is broken, but ultimately we know we can continue to do the same thing we were doing before. We just ran amok. We ran our expenses too high. We didn't know our margins. We weren't managing our payables, but ultimately we know if we can work with someone like Dylan, or we can get our act together, then we're going to still do the same thing we were doing before. We're just going to do it better, and we're going to learn from the lessons. Right now, I think that's a harder question to answer, because depending on the business that you're in, if the market conditions that we're experiencing right now, which is pretty much like a shutdown, it's not official, but it's pretty much like an economic shutdown. What happens 12 months from now if nothing really has changed? Like the economy still hasn't turned on again. The product or service that you're offering, are people still going to use it? Are they still going to need it? Because if the answer to that is no, probably not, or you don't believe, it doesn't matter what I think. If you're the entrepreneur running
Yeah.
your own business, only you can answer that question. But if you can't figure out whether or not people are still going to need what it is you have when the market conditions change, then that's going to alter all of the decisions that you make right now. If you think the product or service that you offer is still going to be needed when the economy settles down, then you have to say, okay, is pricing going to change? Is how we deliver our product and service going to change? Is people's willingness to consider it the way they considered it before going to change? I heard a guy, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and he's a guy that's got lots of money, venture capitalist, yada, yada. But he says, I've been wearing the same pair of jeans for 4 days now. And do you know what I've learned? I own too many pairs of jeans. Do you know what else I've learned? I don't need all those jeans. And he
Yeah.
says, guess what? I've been wearing an H&M t-shirt, which I paid like $9 for. He's like, you know what? It's a
Yeah.
pretty good t-shirt. I don't need all those other t-shirts I've got. So I do think, depending on how long this lasts, consumers and customers and clients are reevaluating how they're spending their money and whether or not they're getting true value out of it. So if you're an entrepreneur running a business that you've never really thought about that, again, healthily paranoid as I am, those are things you need to be considering, because it does change then all of the next steps that you take. And then if you can answer that
Yeah.
question, so you figured out where you are right now and the problems you're trying to solve, you've created some context to say, okay, where do I think my business is going to end up? And I would take the worst case scenario. That's my style, because if you consider the worst case scenario, then your worst downside or your worst case scenario is you were right. Your best case scenario is you were wrong, and instead of this being a 12-month problem, it's a 60-day problem, in which case you've already thought all the angles 10 ways to Sunday, and you can just get going. So I tend to have a style that says, let's think of all of the worst case scenarios. Let's just get it out there. Let's put it on paper. Let's say it out loud, because then it doesn't have any power over us, and we can actually start dealing with real strategies and tactics. So if you understand where you are right
Okay.
now, if you understand where you think your business is going to end up, assuming worst case scenarios, then the last thing to do is to figure out, okay, what do I focus on right now? Because as you and I just finished saying, Sonny, some of the decisions that you make on Monday may no longer apply on Thursday. So
And
unlike
I think that's going
in,
to continue to change.
oh, I think so. And unlike in my
Yeah.
history, when I'm dealing with a broken business, you can do that. You can say, okay, on Monday, here's our strategy, guys. Next week, let's revisit the progress we've made and get going. That isn't available right now because things are so fluid and moving so quickly. So the rule the thing I'm saying right now is it's not even one day at a time. It's actually just one decision at a time. You can't even think of, the next 20 or 30 decisions that you have to make. You can only think of the next one. And then you might say, well, then what's the point of the other two things you talked about, Dylan? Understanding where my business is going to end up and understanding where I am right now. If all you're telling me is to make like one decision at a time, well, again, I'm just giving context. You do have to know where the goalposts are way, way down the field so that you understand where you think you're trying to get to. But in terms of moving the ball down the field, it literally is one decision at a time. So whatever you think is going to happen, get in front of it and don't react to what's going on. My decision on Tuesday and today to lay off, what would that be, 30 people collectively?
Yeah.
It's only because I'm anticipating that the decision I've made wasn't going to be any different a week from now for me, but for my staff, it would have been different because they would have said, well, you already knew this. Why didn't you just tell me like a week ago? So at least I had a little bit of a head start to figure out what I needed to do to make my own life work. So
Yeah.
I
No
guess
doubt.
maybe it's style over substance, but whatever you think is going to happen, just get in front of it right now. And again, it's like the worst case scenario is I was wrong. Maybe 2 weeks from now, everything's fine and I hire back 30 people. Great. But if not, then at least I didn't have to wait and react to it when it was maybe maybe when it was more dire than it is right now.
Yeah, I'll
And
jump in a little bit there, Dylan. I can speak to that with Planet Builders. We started in 2008, and it was in a recession when we actually started it. And you know what? We didn't know anything. We didn't understand the recessions. We didn't know upswings and downswings and so on. And then we hit the 2011 recession. Oh, okay, we can get through this. This is no problem. We hovered along through that one. We got through the 2013 mini recession, got through that one. Then the 2015 recession hit. And by that time, we are already, Planet Builders was in Calgary and it was in Edmonton. And we had the same mentality. We'll keep our staff on, keep it going. We'll ride the wave 6 months, 8 months. We'll be able to ride the wave. And then ultimately, two years down the road, continuing not laying anybody down, not making the corrections in the business. And ultimately, the business failed because of it, because we didn't put the proper steps in the business to maybe send people home. And that's what we should have done.
yeah, and so again, that idea of what to focus on right now is just not, for me, again, the coronavirus to me just orders of magnitude makes things worse, but it's what I'm comfortable having dealt with for so many years now. It's not being in a position to react. And I've kind of got this philosophy that it's like playing offense or defense, and it's kind of just simple logic. If all you're doing is playing defense, your best opportunity is to not lose any ground. Practically what happens if you play defense is you do end up losing a little bit of ground. Like that's the most realistic outcome. Whereas if you play offense, your best outcome is you get the ball down the field. Your worst outcome is you stay exactly where you are. And so being able to play proactively or run your business proactively instead of reacting, it does change your psyche. It changes the mood of your team. It becomes almost self-fulfilling. Whereas when you're reacting, it feels like a dog pile, like everything just starts to stack and stack and stack because you just can't seem to get a hold of it. So you got to understand where you are right now. You have to have an opinion or understand where you think your business is going to be. And then you've got to, based on those two answers, then you need to know what to focus on right now, one decision at a time. So here's some practical takeaways on the finance end. First of all, revise your budget. Most entrepreneurs don't run their business according to a budget, or if they do, it's kind of like a loose in my head, here's what I think the math is. No, take the time, like just take a minute to put a budget together. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just like rent, salaries, marketing, office, that's it, right? Loan payments, whatever it might be. So revise your budget. I'm encouraging everybody to make a list of all your creditors, all your vendors, all your suppliers, the government of Alberta, the government of Canada, the payroll department, the GST department. Get their phone numbers, put it on a list. And if you think for even a minute you're not going to be able to meet your obligations, get on the phone and start telling people, because the sooner you can do that, the sooner you're going to, first of all, you're going to feel better because it's not going to be like this cloud over your head anymore. But it also gives a heads up to the other people that are maybe relying on your business that they can now make plans. Yeah, they're going to be upset. They're not probably going to say all the things you want them to say. But at least you've done your part to tell them, you've taken the burden off your shoulders. And on a best efforts basis, you're going to do what you can. So revise your budget, make a list of the people that you owe money to, all of your creditors, and get on the phone with them as needed. And then just adjust your cash flow. Just start to pay real close attention to what you need. For example, in the one business that we're trying to manage through right now, we have a whiteboard in one of our managers' offices, and it's just an over-under. And we've said each week, this is how much net profit we need rather, to make our monthly budget. Where's that coming from? And then there's crickets because no one ever wants to answer that question. But we say, oh, we got that project. That's going to contribute X amount of dollars to that number. That project's going to contribute X amount of dollars to that number. No different, Sonny, than what you guys had in the hallway at Planet Builders, where you would map out all your sales. And that's really important because you can map out your sales, but also map out what your profit's going to be on those sales. Just add that to the bottom.
That's right.
Because that's what you need to rally everybody around. The more transparent you can be, the more open and honest you can be with everybody, the more buy-in you're going to get from your team. And quite frankly, people need to be led. They pretend they don't want to be, but people want goals to work towards. They want someone carrying the vision, and they want someone leading them, and then they can do the work. In the absence of having leadership and knowing where the goalposts are, people fall apart because by default, people aren't self-starters. They need someone to help get them going. Once they get going, then they're good. but they do need someone to lead them. And as the entrepreneur, that is your number one job. So where are you right now? Where do you think you're going to end up? And then what are you going to focus on today to get you between those 2 points? Revise your budget, make a list of your creditors and the payments that you owe them, get on the phone with them and start asking for deferrals, making arrangements with them, telling them I'm just going to call you every week and give you an update, and then revise your cash flow, put it on a whiteboard, put it somewhere where everyone can see it, or include it in a daily email to your team if now you're working remote. And then lastly, you do have an obligation to take time. I know it's frustrating because entrepreneurs, and I am the most guilty of this, but take time to understand what the government is offering, because the money that the government is making available is it's real, it's a lot. You'd be a fool to not at least explore it. It takes, make yourself a cup of coffee, jump online, go to the government website, read, and then try to understand how they can help your business. Worst case scenario, nothing helps. And it was, you had a cup of coffee and learned something. Best case scenario, you might be able to access some resources and some capital that's going to end up saving your business. So, Sonny,
Yeah.
I'm going to pass it over to you
No.
now.
Yeah. Well, I got a few questions for you, Dylan, before we get going here. What should business be preparing before meeting a company like yourself or an investor or a lender? If that's the approach that they want to go, they want to start having open dialogue with a company like Bridge, what should they be preparing themselves?
They should be able to explain what they're struggling with. And that, again, sounds really obvious. And, oh, I'm struggling with everything. No, you're not struggling with everything. There are some very specific things that your business is struggling with. I think today, certainly cash is a problem, but it isn't actually the problem, right? Cash is after the equal sign. So, no sales plus no margin equals no cash. So cash isn't the answer. Cash is just the result of some other things that aren't working. And so today, or in history, what hasn't worked is that a business has said, we didn't know our margins, we didn't know how expensive it was to run our business, we didn't know whether or not all the payroll expenses should have been required, we just kept hiring people to keep up with volume. So it's like stuff you can fix inside the business. Today, I think, Sonny, it's more in your wheelhouse, which is, we actually don't know how to get sales right now because everyone's at home. The thing that we do, the product or service that we offer, we're struggling to figure out how to deliver it right now to customers, or tell them about it, or get them interested in it, or get them engaged. So before talking to somebody like me, or not even before, but to have a productive conversation with me, I would say you need to be able to explain what problem you're trying to solve specifically, not generally, but very specifically.
And when clients do engage with Bridge Capital, what does that client experience path look like?
It starts with them getting a Bridge Cap account, because there's no point talking with me or trying to explain things to me without having context. So we ended up at the beginning of this year launched the Bridge Cap account because I spend so much time, plus the two individuals that manage kind of the back office. We just spend so much time saying the same thing, answering the same questions, that it ends up not being incredibly productive. So what we did is we created a Bridge Cap account so that an entrepreneur can go and get some basic understanding of the problem that they're trying to solve. So fix, fund, and grow. Those are kind of the three areas that we focus on. And on our website, you can say, I need to fix my business, I need to fund my business, I need to grow my business. And once you pick one of those things, you create an account for yourself. There's a couple of interactive tools that are very simple to use, like 2 or 3 clicks. But the information you get, all of a sudden, we're realizing entrepreneurs are going, oh, okay, I didn't even know that. So now that I know that, now the conversation I'm going to have with Dylan is going to be way more productive. And so we put a checklist inside of the Bridge Cap account, which just walks an entrepreneur through the steps that are involved in working with Bridge Capital. And it allows an entrepreneur to start getting some answers to their questions. And it allows them to off ramp at any point where they say, oh, okay, it turns out I don't need the help. Or get engaged further and ask for help if it turns out they make it through some of the basic stuff, and then they're able to say, great, now I'm going to engage personally with the Bridge Cap team.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you. I appreciate that.
As we get into your side, there was a question asked, Sonny, and maybe just incorporate it into your pitch. Yeah. But sales and social distancing being the issue for myself in my industry at this moment, as I do a significant amount of door-to-door commercial and institutional sales, any suggestions? So As you talk through
Yeah.
your end here, maybe
Well,
you can just include how to answer that question.
so I work with a lot of contractors and service-based companies now, and we've been actually doing a lot of conversations and struggling on how to continue to reach out to clients. And it's no different than how you and I are engaging right now, Dylan. Where where you can invite all your clients to a webinar where you can sit there and talk about your service and products. You can sit there and talk about how times have changed in your business and how you're going to move those products and services for contractors. Like a lot of people are saying, don't come into my house right now, don't come into my house right now. Okay, so eventually the noise, this moment that we're in right now, will die down a little bit, and then but we want to be ready, because people are still going to want to make sure you're walking in with gloves on your hands, and are you cleaning up after you leave, and what are you touching when you're in the house, and so on and so forth. So having interactions like this is one of those things that I think is going to be very crucial in the future, and very crucial in the near future. So
Yeah,
that's just a point.
yeah, if I
Right.
could jump in, I know in our, and it's funny, but it's a hazmat and asbestos business and we construction. But our database, so we've got almost 600 contacts. And then of that, we have a subset of about 10% that we're constantly talking to every day, every week. And no one's having coffee right now. No one's going for lunch. No one's going for beers. And this was just normal course of business for us. Like we wanted to get a deal, we go out for a beer, we go have a burger, we go have a coffee, bring a box of donuts over. It's just part of our workflow. Now, nobody wants to meet. In fact, it's even one step worse than that, because nobody wants to talk on the phone because no one really knows what to say, right? Because no one's certain
Yeah.
of anything. So we're finding, we use a tool called HubSpot, as I know you do as well, Sonny. And what we're
Yeah.
doing now is we're engaging through our inbox. And through our inbox, we're going out of our way to create specific information to address the common questions that we're getting. And we are then picking up the phone after we've seen that there's been some interaction on the inbox, and off we go. But face to face for us right now, and probably for the foreseeable weeks and months, is just going to be a no-go. So we're trying to figure out how to do it in this type of a setting. But yeah, um, for commercial and institutional leads, which we have, that is our business. We don't do any residential whatsoever. Right now, it's all email. And then it kind of feels like once you pass the email gate, then you're able to pick up the phone, and people are like, okay, I didn't really want to talk to you because I didn't really know what to tell you because our company hasn't told us what's
Yeah.
going on. But
Right.
I see your emails and we kind of got a conversation going. So now I'm cool to like pick up the phone and let's schedule a call. So that's what we're seeing on our side.
Yeah, perfect. So when we go into a business and looking to build that growth strategy, that one of the first things that we want to see is, if can they identify what their next 6 months of sales look like? And this is when we get asked that question, we get the big deer in the headlights going, what my 6 months of sales look like? Okay, so we can't answer that question. I get that. That's the question that majority of our business, our clients are, it's how they answer the question. But through collecting information properly, and having a proper client retention program, collecting the data, using things like HubSpots, newsletter campaigns, email campaigns, is one way of going and staying in constant contact with your clients. And so we highly recommend having a database. HubSpot's free. I think
Yeah.
Driveforce is a free product as well until you hit a certain level of clients in there. But there's no reason why today, in today's business, you can't be collecting data and using it as a sales tool in your business.
Yeah, 100%. And um, uh, many entrepreneurs trying to figure out how to sort of set it up. But I'm with you, Sonny, that even in normal times when I'm working, when Bridge Cap is trying to fix a broken business, that's kind of the first thing we focus on. We while we're fixing back a house and sorting out the books and the accounting and all that kind of stuff, the net, kind of in conjunction with that, because you're dealing with invoicing and collections and that sort of thing, you say, well, wait a minute, how many customers do you have? I don't know. Okay. So if you don't know how many customers you have, you certainly don't know where your sales are coming from. But if you know how many customers you have, then you say, okay, well, when are they going to interact with you again? I don't know. We've just never
Yeah,
done that. We've always just waited for the phone to ring, or we've waited for someone to click on our web link. Or so being,
yeah,
having that line of sight is not something that many businesses do. And I think today they're going to
Yeah.
start figuring out how to do that.
In a lot of businesses, that's what they say. Oh, Sonny, I get all these emails. I get all these emails. And I don't even look at them.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, you know what? I completely understand. I do that too. I see an email I don't understand. I don't know who this person is. Swipe to the left,
Yeah.
and I remove it. But I can tell you that if you have done a service for this person before, provided a product, I promise you that they're going to open up that email. And a lot of people don't understand the difference between an email campaign and a newsletter campaign. You know, an email campaign is to go out directly today when you send that out to drive sales into your business. Okay. And I'll talk to you guys about click funnels and stuff like that, how those emails can lead you down a path. And then newsletters are to go out and attract new potential clients. So how you write those, how you design those, and who your next target market's going to be, who do you put it out in front of? You're attracting that client to come into your business. Versus an email campaign, it's a way for you to have client retention. Maybe your business was a bathroom company. You're able to go ahead and say, we now do painting. You know what I mean? You've got a client database that you can now send, boom, here you go, 10% off, click here. Now all of a sudden they go down, you put them down a funnel, and then down that funnel, you get them down a path where ultimately leads them down to a sale. So having a database today is extremely crucial in every business. Every business that I walk to, it's the same thing, Dylan. That's why I asked that question. What do your next 6 months of sales? Because that triggers us to be able to identify, okay, you don't have database. Are you doing newsletters? Are you doing email campaigns? So on and so forth. The minute they grab a hold of that, and now we start showing, okay, so now you got 3 sales next week. I mean, booked in for next week, because you've started up your database and you sent your first email out and you got 3 sales from that. Okay, well, guess what? How are we going to fill in September sales? I want to know that right now. I want to have sales in September.
100%.
Well, how are we going to do that? Well, the answer is simple. You know, we're going to run them down a click funnel. So here you are. You're a bathroom company. Okay, so you've got 10 spots available, for example. You're going to put a nice little package out there. You're going to attract people that are looking for bathrooms. Okay, so they're going to come to that email. They're going to open it up. Click, boom, there it is. You're going to say something along the lines like, you've only got 10 spots available for September bookings. Okay, so there's only 10. We're only doing 10 of these, and boom, boom, boom. But you're already going to put out that it's already got 70% is already sold. So there's only, or let's backtrack it. Let's say there's 50% only available. There's slash, boom. Now we only have spots for 5 available. Then they click on that funnel, and then they start saying, oh, I can get my bathroom done for $39 a month. Because now you offer financing. So all of a sudden they say, oh my God, I can get this bathroom for $9 grand. Look at what I'm buying, and I can pay for it for 39. And then on top of that, they can say, oh my God, if I finance this, my payments don't even start until the job is completed. So not only that, you've got a way of being able to squeeze clients down a certain path strictly by having a database.
So let me just interrupt, because Adam asked a question. He said, should a quote unquote call to action be implemented to customers, or is this too soon right now in the midst of this crazy pandemic moment? Like, I think what Adam might be asking is it kind of uncool to be asking for a call to action today, or is there a way to create a softer call to action that isn't as invasive or as opportunistic as it might appear to be while people are really vulnerable and unclear and uncertain?
Well, I can tell you, majority of the time I walk into a business, the hardest thing that I have to change is they have to go into action. So the fact that you're asking that question, yes, you should be doing it. Action, action, action. If you feel like you should be doing it, move forward with it. Absolutely.
Okay. And what about how do you stick handle your way through the, because if you're a company dealing with consumers, maybe not businesses, but maybe you're dealing with consumers and kind of like more of a retail client. How do you position yourself to not appear to be opportunistic?
Well, that's tough. You know, I'm currently working with a business right now that is looking at helping businesses, but they don't want to seem opportunistic. They've just got a lot of manpower. They have the resources to go out and help businesses, and they want to go and help scrub and clean businesses and so on. But again, they don't want to seem opportunistic. So that is a very delicate. We're still working through that. But my first point is be honest about it. Just simply be honest about it.
Yeah.
If that's truly what you're doing, you're not going there to gouge, you're being fair about it, you're letting them know how it can help, what your services are going to do, and you're not there for the cash grab. And that should be the message. Yeah.
As you make your way here, Sonny, through just kind of the last couple 5 minutes or so we've allocated for the sales piece, just let the attendees know if you have questions, you can start queuing them up, and that'll give Sonny and I the opportunity to kind of conquer and divide. So go ahead, Sonny, finish up.
Yeah. So another question is, so once you find out how you can start putting in your next week's sales, your next month's sales, and as we're building this growth strategy with their clients, then we need to understand how to identify who your next client is. And a lot of the time we get the comment saying, well, I just wait for the phone to ring, or I'm waiting for that email to come through. So I said, so you're waiting. You're not doing anything today. So when you walk into your business today, you're not doing anything to drive business. So, and that's a big problem in the businesses today, because a lot of them just don't know how to properly market themselves. I get asked, Sonny, my business is 10 years old. I've been around for 10 years. And here's a business that's been around for a year and a half. They're already bigger than my business. They've already got better processes than me. They are already doing this. Why? Because that business goes into action. Number one, they want to identify who their client is, who their target market is, and then how do you get in front of that client?
Okay. Did you have any last points you wanted to use to square off some of the things that you're on the kind of the sales and marketing tactics side? And what we were looking to do is just to walk folks through specifically, how do you retain and grow your customer base right now?
So sorry, say that again.
How do you retain and grow your customer base right now? Because it's one thing to go after new business, which I think lends itself to Adam's question of, well, feels a little dicey doing that because they don't know us. This is the first time they're meeting us. Things are kind of precarious right now. But what about your existing clients? How do you retain them? And then how do you grow using them as kind of your jumping off point?
So strictly through your client retention program. So HubSpot's got a fantastic tool inside HubSpot where you can have
maybe break that down a little bit. You and I, when we hear client retention, we just in our heads we just know what that is. But for someone that may understand the words but not really understand the implication, what does client retention mean?
Means how often are you touching that client? How many times are you reaching out to that client? Are you reaching out to them once a week, twice a week? Is it once a month, twice a month? Are you reaching them out after the service has been provided? What does that process in your business look like today? And are you using it? It should be like a Bible in the business. You should be following that over. I know when Planet Builders, client retention was huge in our business, and it accounted for 10% increase in their sales every year.
So it's and what we do in just a standard business practice for me is we and it drives businesses crazy who haven't done it because they've just said, hey, we're just really good at what we do, people love us, blah blah blah, phone's always going to ring. But I mandate it, and it's something that we talk about every morning in our quick scrums that we have with the management team, which is we go through our CRM system, and we've customized it in such a way that I can look quickly and go, when's the next day we're going to talk to every single one of these people, even if that's 15 days from now, 30 days from now. But within each business, we have rules that we've put around client retention. And we've said within our sales and marketing system, there cannot be a single contact that is in there that does not have the next activity date scheduled. And we've created a culture in both businesses where if in the morning we look through your list and we go through the customers and there's a couple empty customers that don't have the next follow-up scheduled, I mean, public ridicule 101. But we've just learned and I've learned that part of fixing a business and turning it around is you underestimate how how much your customers don't think about you. I mean, you think
Yeah,
they think about you all the time. The truth is they don't. And
yeah,
my I
they
don't
don't. Yeah,
over, not to overblow it, but part of the reason why I'm so religious about making sure we always have a date in our system where we're talking to the client next, not an email,
uh,
not a
fantastic.
not a Google ad or something, but a physical phone call or an actual email to the customer. That's got to be slotted in for every single contact, because that's what that's how you stay in front of your clients. And then it just becomes part of your culture,
Absolutely.
and everybody knows that when I'm done talking to Jane, I better put in the next time I'm going to talk to her and what I'm going to talk to her about. And then over time, what happens is this habit develops, and when you hit a moment like the one we're in right now, boom, you've got access to people that you have been top of mind with. And so now when you go to them and say, how can I help you? They are quicker to respond and highly engaged. And I know watching our analytics over the past 3 weeks as we've been working through this moment, I mean, it's just off the charts because people are responding. It's not the first time, oh, wait a minute, I haven't heard from you guys in 8 months. Now you're reaching out to
Yeah.
me. I mean, so that's what
And it's a
retention,
great
that's
way
what
to,
retention does
because
for
you
us.
have, yeah, and because you have that client retention, you can reach out to them right now and ask them what their business is doing. You know what I mean? Is there something that their business is doing that your business can adopt,
Correct. Yeah.
and help out? So because you've got that database that you can reach out and you got that retention in place, reach out to them, see what their business are doing, see what their staff are thinking about doing, and brainstorm. Nobody's gone through this moment before,
Yeah, and
and
there
it's
aren't
weird.
like and there aren't pat answers for anything. Like it's everything's so
No.
fluid. But as you know, as you and I talked about at the beginning here, we started calling our that subset of really kind of important customers daily. We just did. And
Mm.
even if they had nothing to share with us, at least they heard from us. And then all of the sudden um, we become like a warm blanket or something. Someone that when we call, they know it's not a sales call. We're actually trying to understand where they're at, how we can help. They're asking how they can help us. And it becomes it's not weird because they haven't heard from us for a year, or they haven't heard from us since the last time they used us. Like we've been talking to them and working with them all the way along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, so we got another question here, which says, so before I jump into that, is there anything else you want to share about retaining and growing your customer base right now?
No, but I hope the message is clear that if you don't have a database, it's time to start collecting on a database. Have a client retention program, have a referral program in your business. Stay in front of your client constantly. That is a strong point that every business should be adopting for sure.
So when people are working with lads, as an example, what you'd asked at BridgeCap, how do we walk people through the experience? And we've got an account and a checklist, and we try to give entrepreneurs practical tools to give them some quick information to help create context around the conversation we're going to have with them. What does the experience look like over at Lads for an entrepreneur?
Very similar to yours, Dylan. So with us, we've got a nice grow. We've got a set of 18 questions for them to go through and itemize and answer their questions. And going through that, sometimes it helps them just going through that, and they say, you know what, I'm not doing that. I should go ahead and start doing that.
Right.
So it's kind of that kind of same thing. I'm a belly to belly guy, so I'd probably be doing a video call. I like to
Yeah.
sit down,
Yeah. You and me
walk into the
both. We both
business
like
and work.
listening to ourselves
Yeah,
talk, right?
I love walking into a business and getting the heartbeat of the business
Yes.
and looking at their staff and seeing what everybody's like. But this was nerve wracking for me today because it's the first time I've ever done a webinar. And here I am. I'm looking. We've talked for 48 minutes, and I'm going, wow. You know what? Time is just flying. But no, it's something that in businesses today we all have to adjust to start being a little different. You know,
So
so.
you, so
Um,
over at Lads, you've got those 18 questions that entrepreneurs can answer, and in doing that, they're going to discover, or you've maybe in those questions probably planted some seeds that they haven't thought about. Kind of
that's right.
what happens next?
So, and if they're interested, they'll go ahead and submit their email, and at that point, I'll be reaching out to them, and
Now, is it
then
you or someone on your
just
team, or do they get to talk to your
no, I'm
smiling
a
mug?
belly to belly guy right now.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do have a full team behind me. I do have a full
yes,
team
yeah,
behind me, but I like to take I like talking to the entrepreneur. I like to understand where their struggles are, how we can help them, and put a growth strategy in place so they know what their next week's sales are going to look like. They can start understanding what their next month, who's their client going to be, what's the true potential of the business, what revenues actually should be spent in growing the business versus sustaining your business. A lot of people say 10% it should be set. Well, I can tell you in some businesses that we walk in, they're spending 10%. By the time we're done, they're using only 5% of revenue, and their business is growing because they just didn't understand all the tools that were made available and how we can and help grow the business. So
Now,
they would get a call from me, and then we would kind of go and put a strategy together and start booking time together. And over a short, quick 2.5, 3 weeks, they've got all the information that they need to go to take their business to that next level.
and I know that Lads offers part of your marketing solutions are a la carte. So there's a bunch of different services and specific things that you put together for a business and an entrepreneur based on their needs. But I've heard you talk a lot about geofencing as kind of the strategy that every time I ask you about a client, you're pretty quick to speak to that. So maybe
Yeah.
you just spend maybe a minute or two explaining how Lads uses that as a functional, practical tool for entrepreneurs that are looking to grow?
So I've got a roofing company right now, and he's looking to grow his business. So he's in full growth mode. And so he's like, so how do I go out and start reach the masses? Well, I said, so how have you been doing your marketing? And he says, oh, I've had a door knocking team, and we went door knocking, and I knock doors myself. And then once we get a job, I do flyers 10 houses that way, houses 10 houses to the right, behind it, front of it. And I said, so how did that work for your business? He says, good. But he says, Sonny, I'm only doing about 8 or 9 roofs. I want to start doing 20 to 30 roofs. And I said, okay, is your business able to go ahead and handle that? So he said, yeah. So I said, well, there's quick technology. There's cellular triangulation technology that you can buy from the cell phone towers, and you can geofence a community. So for example, for him, for his play, it was, we took one corner of the city, the southeast corner of the city, and we took every community that was 20 years or older. And what we did is we geofenced that. And now every cell phone inside that area is now getting his ads coming to their phones. So, and what that ad is, it's constant there for 3 months. So all of a sudden people are looking to get their roofs done. They see a nice little click funnel ad, because I'm a big fan of click funnels, because that's websites don't sell anything. ClickFunnels sell things.
Right.
And so we have it linking to a ClickFunnels. So they walk in, they say, oh, roof, I can get my roof done for $39 a month. I can get my roof done. So all of a sudden he's got 20, 25 orders coming through, and not only that, his jobs aren't all over across the city. They're in a nice tight community. They're close. He can go from one site to the next site to the next site, check up on all of his crews, back and forth. So he's nice and close. It's controlled. Geofencing is another tool that we like using with their clients, and it can be used. We have another one for the downtown core. So we're looking to attract a whole bunch of engineers and architects, and so we find that the biggest pool of them are downtown. So we'll go ahead and geofence that. And so companies that are looking for engineers and architects, we're now advertising directly to them. So that's a way of us getting in front of that client. And you'd be very surprised on how affordable that technology is available.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I know that's a strategy not many people know about, but it's something that you guys are using all the time. Okay,
Oh yeah,
we got
constantly.
a question posted here. It said, would it be prudent to just simply provide information by showcasing your services and then slightly plant little seeds of calls to action later through the education process?
Absolutely. That guy's pulling on some heartstrings there. If you're doing that, you're well on your way. The whole business is you should be planting seeds. Absolutely. So if you're doing that, be educational. To sales, every sales is a hook. What's the hook? What's going to grab your attention? What's the story? What's the offer? And
Right.
inside that offer, what's the new hook? And what's the new offer, right? And if you can start mastering those things, man, you're well on your way. That's how you're planting seeds. And that's why every time you're putting stuff out onto the social web, or you're doing newsletter campaigns or email campaigns, those are seeds that you're planting constantly. So, well, good job if you're doing that.
Yeah, and in my experience, that for that same type of the same type. It becomes like style over substance, I think, because businesses are usually a reflection of the entrepreneur, and then the sales processes and marketing processes usually tend to mirror the personality of the entrepreneur. So if you're scared of sales, then a lot of your information is more information based, right? Because you're not really sure how
Hmm.
to ask for the order. If you are an aggressive individual, every sales piece is an ask for the order. There's no information, right? And so I
Hmm.
think that sales and marketing plans tend to reflect the entrepreneur. Um, my style in the businesses that I'm in is we do the educational sale, because I do believe that information is power, and I think entrepreneurs are really smart, and I think customers are smart if they're given easy to digest information. But any information you provide should lead to the inevitable, oh, well, I should probably take advantage of this. So it's not information for
That's
the
right.
sake of information, because that's a waste of time and people don't want that. Anytime you have a customer's attention, there should be something that they can do with that. So it's not just here's a piece of information, it's here's a piece of information and here's what you need to do with it, because people need to be
That's right.
led. So there's planting seeds, but I do think there's giving information and helping people make the next step in their journey. We just
That's
got a
right.
question here posted because you're talking about geofencing, and this might be new for the folks that are watching, but what are geofencing costs? How does the cost structure work on geofencing?
Some clients are paying as low as $1,800 a month to hit an entire corner of the city, and you can start hitting that city. So that means it's just like the old way of doing flyers. So I'll backtrack. Flyers is to do a corner of a city. Typically, you're going to be around 18 to 2,000 bucks a month. So extremely affordable, and every client that we have doing geofences, they don't want to do any other form of marketing except geofencing. They feel that that's the volume that they can keep up with. But we have companies that we're geofencing every time there's a home show. Instead of being part of the home show, we can go ahead and just geofence that home show for that weekend. So we'll go ahead and geofence the corral, the Big Four, or Stampede, or whatever. And anybody that walks into those areas, we've just scooped all of that, all those IP addresses, that cell phone technology, and now we can start direct marketing to them. So if you're a service-based company and you weren't in the home show, well, now you can still not be in the home show and still have contact and do direct marketing to their hand phone. I mean, to their cell phone or their device, their tablet or whatever. So it's kind of cool that way. But no, extremely affordable. There's not a lot of people in the city that know how to do it. But if you want more information, come to the site, reach out to us, and we'd be happy to explain more.
Okay. Should I be paying my bills right now?
Oh, that's for you,
Well,
Dylan. Yeah,
that's a
we
tough
had that.
that's a tough one. I think it goes back to in the context of, okay, where are you now? Where are you trying to get to? What's the next thing you need to focus on? Having a list of your creditors. Only you know the answer. I think only you know the answer to that question, but whether you do or don't pay your bill shouldn't change the exercise. The exercise is you should get on the phone with your creditors, get a sense of where they're at as well, because day by day, creditors, the government, everyone is making decisions. An answer you heard on Monday won't be the same answer on Tuesday and won't be the same answer on Wednesday. So by keeping that list in front of you, by having those phone numbers or the email address of who your point of contact is with the creditor that you have to make payments to. I know deferrals are a big thing right now. It seems to be what everyone is doing. Everyone's just sort of going, hey, can I defer for a month? Can I defer a payment? Can I defer? They're doing it with mortgages. I know that the banks are doing it with loans. And so really what you're asking, if you've done the other work properly, what you're asking is, do I need to pay my vendors and my suppliers? And to that, I would say, if your business is still going to be hanging around when all of this starts to settle down, then you want to keep an open dialogue going with your creditors so that they know where your business is at, and they can plan their cash as well, because everything is relationship driven, and in these times even more so. So should you be paying your bills? Case by case basis. At a minimum, make sure you're talking to everyone that is expecting money from you, so that you can get a sense of where they're at and that they can understand where you are at. So all right, we don't have any other questions. Sonny, you have any questions you want answered?
No, not really. Let me know if you want to make a comment, if you thought this, if you want to make a quick comment, what you thought of this podcast. It's yours and mine's first one,
Yeah, yeah, together.
and
It's
it's
great.
getting me out of my box. I'd like to get some feedback on what your guys' thoughts were. Dylan's very fluent in speaking. I'm a little different. I'm a little shy when I got a camera on, so,
It's only because I talk so much,
but
Sonny. It doesn't really matter.
yeah,
Just put me anywhere, and I'm
yeah.
just going to
So
talk, talk, talk. We mentioned as well that we're going to give folks kind of some free tools and some free resources. What's the next step? And we'll send an email to the attendees so that everyone can have it in their inbox. But what are some of the next steps, Sonny? If an entrepreneur is sitting on this webinar right now and they're going, "Wow, it's a bit of a fire hose of information, but there's some neat things that I heard there." What with respect to lads, what should they be doing next?
um, if you don't have a database, if you don't have a CRM, a client management software program in your business, start implementing one now, because it is the way of the future. Even if you don't think it is, you're going to wish in 2-3 months from now that you did, or 2-3 years from now that you did. Information is key. So I would definitely, that would be one of my takeaways. And if you're not strong at doing the marketing in your business, and you're not familiar in how the marketing works, don't try to do it. There's so often that we walk into businesses and we're able to reduce cost because they're just doing things incorrectly. So we're able to help save, but we don't charge for this stuff. We do a free overview of their business, and so it's something that we don't charge, and we like to help out. At the end of the day, our goal is to help out 110 entrepreneurs this year. That is our goal. That's what we want to do, and we want to help see their businesses grow. And then next year, maybe it's 150, but we're building it to 110 entrepreneurs this year, and that's what we're dedicating our business to.
So just to give you a little bit of an ego boost there, we just had someone drop in and say, "Awesome, fellas. I would happily attend again." There you go, Sonny. Um,
Oh, thank you.
exactly. Yeah, right. So folks can
Yeah.
jump on to, is it ladsbusinesssolutions.ca? What's your website?
Yeah, www.lotsbusinesssolutions.ca.
They should go
We'll
through that
fire off a,
questionnaire, right?
yeah, go through that questionnaire, fill out an email. Once you've done that, I will definitely reach out to you personally, and we can see how we can help.
And
And
with
yourself,
respect,
Dylan?
yeah, with respect to BridgeCap, I would say go to bridgecap.ca, get yourself a BridgeCap account, use some of those free tools and resources. I've got a podcast, I got a blog. There's just, again, I like talking, so it comes out in all sorts of different mediums. But
Yeah.
there's going to be lots of answers there. But there's also the ability to connect directly with me, with the two other folks that help manage those incoming requests and some of the services that we offer. And we're happy to help as well. But go get yourself a BridgeCap account. There's just no two ways about it. And in the email we'll send out afterwards, I'll just make sure to include those links. So any closing thoughts, Sonny, as we round this out?
No, I say, at the end of the day, this moment will pass. It will.
Wait a minute, that sounds like a line
And
I gave.
You did, and I use it with every single
So
client,
do I use it all
because
the
this moment will pass, and be the leader, be the bright side, be the light, the shining light on your staff or your house, your home. Be that positivity, because that's what we need right now. A lot more of
time.
that.
Yeah, agreed. And my closing comments would be the same thing. Don't not have a plan. I don't know if that's bad grammar or not, but don't not have a plan. There's a moment and there's a time to be stressed out and anxious and depressed, but you got to, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, you got to get over that moment and get into action. And you need to be doing something. Do anything. Don't stand still, because everything will sound worse in your head than it actually is, and you're not going to ultimately get to where you want to be. So that would be my closing comment. So that's great for
Perfect.
everyone that tuned in. Thank you very much. We would appreciate, if we end up sending you an email, feel free to reply to each of us to connect with us. But thank you very much for hanging out on this webcam or this webinar. And way to go, Sonny.
Webinar. Yeah.
You got your first one done.
First one's out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo. It's good.
All right. So talk to you guys later.